Hello everyone, my name is Renuka and I am working as an assistant professor in College of Pharmacy. Today my topic of presentation is drug receptors interaction. In this topic we will go through different types of, firstly we will go through definition, and in the second time we will go through the different types of receptors. In receptors we will come to know about the types of various receptors which are present and along with their mechanism, and in the end we will go through the mechanism of action of these receptors. So we will start our topic. Firstly, definitions. So firstly, what is receptor? Receptor is any cellular macromolecule that a drug binds to initiate its effect. So receptor is a site at which any molecule or any drug binds and produce its pharmacological action. Any action that may be positive or negative, but that binding site is known as a receptor. The second definition is drug. So drug is, what is drug? So drug is a chemical substance that basically interacts with the biological system to produce a physiological effect. So we can say that drug which basically produce any pharmacological effect, so that is known as a drug. So they are saying that all the drugs are chemicals, but not all chemicals are drugs. So we can say, as we know that drugs are chemical in nature, so these are called as active API, active pharmaceutical ingredients. So these are chemical in nature, but not all chemicals are drugs. So if I say that hydrochloric acid is a chemical, but that is not used as a drug. So that's why we say that all drugs are chemical, but not all chemicals are drugs. So next definition is agonist. So what is agonist? Agonist is able to activate the receptor. We can say that it is a type of ligand that is able to activate the receptor and result in a strong biological effect. So agonist is basically that will show a positive response that has a strong biological response. The next one is partial agonist. So partial means half of that agonist. So it doesn't activate receptor with maximal efficiency. Obviously that is half of the agonist, so that will produce half effect in comparison to that of agonist, but has even a maximum binding. No doubt its binding is maximum, but produce half response. Next are, what are antagonist? So antagonist that also binds to receptors. Like if I say that agonist also binds to receptor and antagonist also binds to receptor, but anta means against to that of agonist. So antagonist that doesn't activate the receptors, that actually produce that a block or produce negative effect in comparison to agonist or in comparison to partial agonist, or we can say these are inverse agonist as they produce opposite effect to that of agonist. The next one is inverse agonist. Inverse agonist that reduce the activity of receptor by inhibiting their consecutive activity, means they produce a totally negative effect in comparison to agonist. So that's why these are known as a inverse agonist. Next are allosteric modulations. So allosteric sites are the sites that are present adjacent to binding sites, means if a drug or any ligand that is not directly attaching at that binding site or receptor site, but is attaching the adjacent site to the receptor and changes that particular site and doesn't allow the drug molecule to produce 100% effect. So these are called allosteric modulations. So they don't bind to agonist binding site of receptor, but instead on specific allosteric sites they modify the effect of agonist. So if I am giving example like benzodiazepines. So benzodiazepine bind to benzodiazepine site to GABA receptors. So means they don't directly bind to GABA receptors, they bind to the allosteric site, means adjacent site of GABA receptor, that is benzodiazepine, and potentiate the effect of GABA. They are basically binding on the another side and affecting the other side of the GABA. Next are factor governing drug action. So in this we will discuss about the main factor that are governing the drug action of a drug. So basically there are two factors that determine the effect of a drug on physiological processes. So different physiological processes obviously are produced, either are digestion, elimination, excretion. All these processes are basically governed by these two factors, affinity, and the next one is intrinsic activity. So affinity means affinity is a measure of tightness that a drug binds to receptor. So it is basically a bond that is by which a drug basically binds to receptor. So bond, that is tightness. If a drug is tightly bound to the receptor, that is has a strong affinity. If a drug doesn't have that strong bond, binding strong bond with the receptor, so that is has a loose binding. So if I say that affinity means tightness. The next one is intrinsic activity. So intrinsic activity is measure of ability. So affinity is tightness and intrinsic activity is ability. So it is ability means capability of drug to bind at a receptor. So it is if a drug is capable to bind, so if another drug may not be capable to bind. So that is called intrinsic activity. If either a drug is capable to bind a receptor or not, so that is known as an intrinsic activity. Next, the main type we have to discuss is types of receptor. This is the main topic. So what are the types of receptors? So here we have to discuss these 5 types of receptor. The very first is G protein coupled receptor, that is also known as GPCR. The next one is ion channel receptor. Next, third one is a transmembrane enzyme linked receptor. The fourth one is transmembrane Jack state binding receptor, and the last one is receptors regulating gene expression. So we will discuss one by one about these receptors in each slide. So firstly we will discuss about GPCR. G for G protein, P for protein, C for coupled, and R for receptor. So these are known as a GPCR, G protein coupled receptor. So first is GPCR. So GPCR means bind a ligand. So GPCR is a receptor to which a ligand will bind. So a GPCR basically bind a ligand and activates a membrane protein. So if a ligand will bind to that GPCR receptor, so it will there is a presence of protein that is known as a G protein. That's why this name is receptor. This receptor is named as a GPCR due to presence of G protein. So if a ligand will bind to that G protein, so this will activate this will activate a G protein. So this G protein will be activated now. The now activated G protein will interact with ion channels. Ion channels means different types of ion channels are present. We will discuss about it in the next slide. So ion channels mean different types of ions are obviously involved. For the different type of ions like calcium ions, potassium ions, chloride ions, all these ions are involved in ion channel. So GPCR means G protein will now interact with different ion channel or may interact with any enzyme that may be involved like protein kinase, phospholipase. These enzymes may interact with G protein. So this will further bind with ligand. Ligand will if a ligand is not bind, that will inactivate G protein. Means activation of G protein will depend upon the binding of ligand. If ligand will bind, this will activate G protein, and once G protein is activated, that will now change the shape and becomes active. So after the binding of a ligand with receptor, 2 molecules will form now a complex. So there will be a change in shape. So if shape will be changed, and this now receptor will be activated upon binding of ligand, and that will split into different subunits. GPCR have 3 subunits like this. G protein coupled channel receptor, these have 3 subunits: alpha, beta, delta. So in this, a receptor is present to which 3 subunits are present. We are discussing about these 3 subunits. These receptors will be activated only upon binding of signaling molecule. This yellow ball, that is known as a signaling molecule. So when a signaling molecule binds to G protein coupled receptor, the G protein alpha subunit exchange GTP to GDP. Means the signaling molecules will only attack to alpha subunit. Rest 2 will remain same. So binding will occur only at alpha subunit, and before binding there is an involvement of energy. So this G protein coupled receptor work only in the presence of energy. So that's why there will be conversion of GTP to GDP. So that is energy conversion, and if GDP will break down to GDP, that will bind to alpha subunit, and this alpha subunit now a complex is formed of alpha subunit and GDP molecule. This alpha subunit will dissociate from beta and gamma subunits, and that triggers a cellular response. Now only the bind proteins, only the bind part like alpha subunit and G protein will detach from other 2 subunits, and that will now perform its function. Rest 2 will remain as same. So that now GTP will break down, GTP is hydrolyzed to GDP. So that is the main conversion. Conversion is compulsory for this, and during conversion from GTP to GDP, energy is released, and this energy is basically involved in whole the process. That's why conversion is necessary, and for main out of 3 subunits, alpha subunit is compulsory. Next are ion channels. So this was your GPC or G protein coupled receptor. Next receptor are ion channel receptors. So ion channels mean these are also known as a ligand gated ion channels. Why we are saying ligand gated ion channels? Because these channels are only activated after the binding of ligands. That's why we are saying ion channels also named as a ligand gated ion channels. As I have already told you that ligand gated ion channel in ion channels, different types of ions are involved, like sodium, potassium, calcium or chloride within the molecule. So if agonist means that is producing the positive response in response to any drug or any molecules. If I am getting the positive response, that is known as a agonist. So if agonist binds to channel, that will open the ion channels. Ion channel will open only upon the action of any agonist or any ligand or any binding molecule. So if channels are open, that will cause depolarization or hyperpolarization. Out of both, depolarization will occur or hyperpolarization will occur. That depends upon the entry of type selectively ion. If I say that there is entry of sodium ion, so that will allow the depolarization. If there is entry of calcium ion, that will allow depolarization. So and potassium, that will lead to repolarization, and chloride will lead to hyperpolarization. So the type of ions that are enter, that selective response will be produced. So on that, now this will cause the ion to flow through the channels. So these are the examples like nicotinic, cholinergic, GABA, glycine. Glycine, that's inhibitory amino acid receptor, excitatory amino acid glutamate, and 5-HT, 5-hydroxytryptamine receptors. All these are ion channel dependent, means the function of all these receptors will depend upon the type of ions which are flowing through these particular ion channels. So this is diagrammatic representation of ion channels. In this, we can see that these are gated ion channels. Why I am saying this is gated ion channels? As if there is no attachment of any signaling molecule or any ligands, till then these ion channels are closed. These ion channels will open only upon the binding of any signaling molecules or any binding of any ligand. So if there is binding of any signaling molecule, like this yellow type molecule, that is your ligand. So this is now binding on your receptor. So if that molecule is now attached to the receptor, so this will open the ion channel, and this will allow the ions from the outside to the inside of membrane to flow. So these gated ion channels form a pore through the plasma membrane. So all these ion channels are basically present on the plasma membrane, so that will open, and after the binding of signaling molecules, the open pore then allows ions into or outside the. So there may be inflow or outflow of the ion depending upon either we require depolarization or repolarization. So depending upon this, there will be flow of either inflow of sodium or inflow of calcium or outflow of chloride. So these are known as your ion channels. Next is your enzyme linked receptor. So what is enzyme linked receptor? As this is cleared by the name, these receptors are linked, or these receptors will perform with the presence of any enzyme. So these are cell surface receptors, means these receptors are present on the surface of the cell. So these are not present inside any membrane or inside the cytoplasm, these are present outside the cell surfaces. So with intracellular domains, so it has two domains. One is extracellular domain and the second one is intracellular domain. Extracellular domain is present outside the membrane. There is binding part in which any ligand will bound, and inside the membrane there is presence of any enzyme at which dimerization, means at which different type of processes will occur. So it will ultimately produce its effect. So enzyme linked receptors are cell surface receptors with intracellular domains that are associated with enzymes. So as named, as it is clear by name, it is enzyme linked, so obviously enzymes will be present. So other enzyme linked receptor have a small intracellular domain that interacts directly with enzyme. So when any ligand that binds to extracellular domain, so any ligand will bind to the extracellular domain. So the signal is transferred through membrane and that will activate any enzyme. And activation of enzyme that will set off a chain of events, means any different type of processes are steps of different types of processes are involved within a cell that will produce its response. So this is diagrammatically representation of enzyme linked receptor. So in this enzyme linked receptor, there is ECF, means extracellular fluid, and inside the cell there is presence of cytoplasm, they are also known as a cytosol. So cytoplasm and cytosol both are same things. So if I am saying that ECF, if we are discussing about ECF, means it is extracellular site. So these are extracellular domains. So these are hormone binding site or peptide sites, and these peptide site or hormone binding sites are present in extracellular domains. So on binding the peptide hormone to extracellular domains, the dimers are formed. Why I am saying these dimers are formed? As first is there is involvement of extracellular domain, the second one is their peptide hormone. So there is two things will collectively form a dimer, and this will further activate tyrosine kinase. So this is enzyme. We are saying, that's why we are saying this is enzyme linked receptor, as this enzyme is basically required for the activity. So this dimer will activate tyrosine kinase activity of intracellular domain. Now this will enter our intracellular domain and this will phosphorylates tyrosine. So T is capital T is our tyrosine residue, which will be phosphorylated upon activation of tyrosine kinase enzyme. Okay. So this tyrosine residue on each other, as well as this will further activate our several SSH2, means this is substrate protein bind. So this is substrate protein. Substrate is a site at which any enzyme will act. So substrate is a site at which any enzyme or any ligand will bind and ultimately produce its effect, or will ultimately lead to the production of any finished product. So this is a protein, and this phosphorylated substrate protein then performs downstream signaling function. So this P, if this P alphabet is attached, it means that protein is now phosphorylated, and after phosphorylation this will produce different kind of functions, that is according to entry of ions. If I say there is entry of a sodium ion, this will lead to the contraction known as a depolarization, or if there is entry of chloride ion, this will lead to the hyperpolarization. So this was your enzyme linked receptor, and the next one is transmembrane JAK state binding receptor. So here two things are involved, that is clear by its name, that is JAK and STAT. So firstly JAK will be involved, and activation of JAK will lead to the first another activation of STAT. So these two things will combine to form a JAK state receptor binding receptors. So firstly, the main point is they don't have any intrinsic catalytic domains. So they don't have any intrinsic site. And the second one is agonist will form, like already discussed in enzyme receptor. These on extracellular domains our ligand will bind, and upon binding of ligand that will lead to the formation of dimers, and dimers will lead to the phosphorylation. So basic process is similar in both the receptors, but the difference is in that case enzyme was involved, and in that case there is involvement of JAK. JAK means there is Janus kinase, that is enzyme. Different enzymes are basically involved. So we can say that if agonist binds, and that will dimerize, because agonist and the second one is enzyme. These two things will form dimer. Di means two. So two things will be involved. That's why I am saying this is dimerization reaction. So this will agonist will bind to JAK, and upon binding to JAK, this will now phosphorylate to tyrosine kinase. Same thing. This will also activate tyrosine kinase like the enzyme linked receptor was doing, but an enzyme is different. That is basically required of the receptor, and now this will bind to STAT protein. So firstly JAK enzyme involved, and ligand plus JAK, they both will form dimer, and this will activate our STAT. So what is STAT? STAT is signal transducer and activator of transcription. So transcription means formation of mRNA. mRNA means messenger RNA. So this will further form any type of protein, and this is basically main required for gene expression. So mRNA and proteins, these are basically main features that are required for expression of any kind of genes. So that's why These are transmembrane JAK state receptors, and pair of STAT will dimerize and translocate to nucleus, and this will generate any gene transcription resulting to perform any kind of biological function, like production of any type of proteins. So, here there is cytokines, growth hormone, prolactin, interferon, all these will act through this type of receptor. So, this is brief discussion of transmembrane JAK state binding receptor. So, this diagrammatically representation of this receptor is also very similar to JAK enzyme linked receptor, but in this case there is ligand is different and enzyme involved is different. Like extracellular domains are also present, these green extracellular domains are present, so to which your cytokine will bind. Cytokine means, and it is a agonist, so that is binding to our sites. So, these inside the membrane, these are the receptors, and after binding to that will activate JAK, that is shown by pink color, JAK, that is Janus kinase enzyme, and Janus kinase enzyme will further bind to STAT, and whenever this Janus kinase bind to STAT, this will lead to the phosphorylation of T means your tyrosine residue, and if there is formation of complex, that is JAK, STAT, tyrosine residue, and all this complex will further phosphorylate and perform the different type of function, like your transcription or produce any type of biological responses. So, this is diagrammatic representation of JAK state binding receptors. So, next one, this is the last receptor regulating gene expression. So, here basic process is same like transcription factor or nuclear receptor. So, here hormone binds near the carboxyl terminus of receptor and restricting proteins, mean these proteins are basically formed. This is receptor regulating gene expression. So, in this different types of proteins or genes will be involved. So, in this also receptor dimers and DNA binding regulating segments, molecule folds, and this also lead to the configuration, means any type of change either in function or either in structure. So, here basic thing is same, like ligand will bind to a receptor and that will bind to co-activator. Co-activator, that is another molecule that is required for further activation. So, co-repressor means if there is attachment of activator, that will further activate the processes, and if there is repressor, that will stop the further processes or further steps. So, the whole complex that attach to specific DNA sequences that target gene facilitates or represent their expression, or specific mRNA is synthesized, means a specific strand of mRNA will be formed. So, these are the brief discussion of the receptors, and after that we will discuss about drug synergism and antagonism. So, what is synergism? Syn word is for together and ergon word is for work. If two things are working together, that is known as a synergism. So, when the action of one drug is facilitated or increased by another, that is known as a synergistic action. So, synergistic action is of two types, that is additive or supra-additive. Additive means addition, 1 plus 1 2, like if I am saying one drug will act, that will activate another drug. So, additive means effect of two drugs in same direction, like effect of drug A plus B, that will produce effect of A plus effect of B, means they will combine to produce a that will produce additive effect, both two drugs will produce same effect. And supra-additive means the effect of combination is greater than the individual effect. If I am saying that drug A is also affecting drug 2, B is also affecting, but they will combine and their combination will produce more effect than their individual components. So, these are supra-additive, or we can say these are potentiation. So, if one component given alone will produce no effect, but enhance the effect of another drug. So, that is called supra-additive. Next is antagonism. Anta means against. So, I can say if one drug will decrease or abolish the action of another drug. So, effect of drug, suppose I am giving two drugs, so effect of drug A plus B will be less than effect of A on effect of B, means there is less effect or decreased effect is produced. So, antagonism will be of different types. First, so physical antagonism means there is physical property of drugs. Suppose charcoal will absorb alkaloids and prevent their absorption, though they are basically acting physically and used in basically alkaloid poisoning. So, next one is chemical antagonism. Chemical antagonism, different types of chemicals are involved. Suppose potassium KMNO4 that basically oxidizes alkaloids, and that is used in gastric lavage in poisoning. So these are basically doing chemical reaction inside the body. So next one is nitrite, for that they form methemoglobin and which reacts with cyanide reaction. So these are basically removing cyanide from the body. Next is physiological or functional antagonism, means the two drugs which basically act on different receptor or by different mechanism, but have opposite effect on, means they are producing opposite effect. So for example, histamine and adrenaline both will act on bronchus muscle, and on that will show on BP effect. So basically two will produce two different drugs will produce two different effect. So glucagon and insulin, these both are acting on for the management of blood sugar level. So next, the fourth one is receptor antagonism. Receptor antagonism means one drug that block receptor activation of another, means this will block the effect of any agonist. So receptor antagonism that may be competitive or non-competitive. Competitive means in this case your antagonist will compete with agonist, and that will replace agonist and will bind itself in place of agonist. So that is known as a competitive antagonism. And the next one is non-competitive antagonism. In this there will be no any competition between agonist and antagonist. In this only antagonist will chemically replace your agonist and will bind to allosteric site, means they will not directly bind to your receptor site, they will bind to allosteric site and will replace, this will change the shape of your receptor and ultimately prevent the attachment of agonist. As the shape is changed, so agonist is no longer not able to bind that particular site. So this is non-competitive antagonism. And the next antagonism is non-equilibrium. Non-equilibrium means certain antagonists that bind to receptor with strong covalent bond, means there is no reversible change. If I say that antagonist is binding to the site, that will bind with strong covalent bond and that will dissociate very slowly. So that's why agonist molecules are unable to reduce or unable to produce the your receptor occupancy, as antagonists are very strongly bind to that particular site. So agonists are not able to bind that particular site. And the next one is, this is your factors that modifying drug action. If I say that the action of drug will depend these different factors. The first is body size. Various factors are involved. So first is your body size. The body size means surface area. So for determining the action of any drug, so different type of formulas are involved. Like for if I have to calculate a dose of any drug, I will calculate individual dose, that body weight divided by 70. That is standard formula into average adult dose. So this is the formula to calculate the dose of any drug according to body weight. So this is a main factor. If a person is obese or healthy, then I have to give that person a strong dose in comparison to even lean person. So that is known as a dose calculation according to body size. Next one is age. According to age, the size of dose will vary. If I say that I have to give dose to children, obviously we will give a small dose in comparison to adult, as they have strong immunity and have well developed digestive system. So in adults we have to give a strong dose in comparison to child. So for some age between based formula for calculating dose, the adult dose has been framed. Okay. Then next is child dose is better calculated more accurately on body weight. So if I have to calculate dose for child, so I will calculate on the basis of weight of that kid. So next one is sex. Obviously females have smaller body size and require dose that are not lower side of the range. So I will give some lower dose in comparison to male to the females. Next is factor modifying drug action. So this is fourth factor is species and race. Obviously some different species will react different in reaction of different type of drug. Rabbits are resistant to atropine, but rat and mice are resistant to digitalis, and rat is more sensitive to curare. So species will respond differently. Different type of species will respond in different manner. So the next factor is genetics. So genetics, if I say the dose of drug to produce the same effect may vary to 4 to 6 fold. If I say a drug will produce say different effect in my body or in another body due to presence of different types of gene. So it may produce longer function for 4 hours, or in another person that may produce same drug may produce different effect, may produce same potency, that may potency will vary for different drugs. So another thing is why the genetics means also differ for the involvement of different type of transporters or enzyme or ion channel or any type of receptors. So these were basically different type of factors that were governing the drug action. Next the one, thank you everyone, and these are the references.